Well, and I went through that since
Mr. Holdman, it is 5 o'clock.
okay. Yeah.
What do you get down set here?
You're
I know, but
Oh,
I'm
go ahead.
waiting for you. Microphone's on.
Right, it's 5 p.m.
Oh, you can probably turn that,
We'll call
turn the mic down.
Safety Committee meeting to order. Please take the roll.
Baylor,
Here.
Kasdorf,
Here,
Holdman.
Here. And is this, we have to count Tark's absent? Is that right?
No, since she resigned.
So she's not on. Okay.
I'll be filling in for.
Every time.
that
Okay.
position.
Any persons desiring to be heard by the Safety Committee? That'll be none. Consideration of the minutes from October 21st.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
So can you second since you weren't here then?
Yes. So I did some investigating. It's just certifying that you agree that the minutes are
Okay,
appropriate.
sounds great. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, so we'll go right on to the Police Department report.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Everyone who's here to observe, thank you for coming. So you guys should have got an emailed copy, but the reports are also handed out in front of you. I'll just kind of go through and see if you guys have any questions along the way. Personnel updates, pretty quiet quarter, but I did add, even though it was after the first of the year, the 15th was our executive assistant Melinda's 1-year anniversary of service with our department. So she's excited about that, and that was that last week. So things are progressing well with her. We're along with some extra training, signing her up for some of the important things that she does that we don't on a daily basis have to do with Crime Information Bureau, the time system, certifications for all of our officers to be able to run criminal histories and things like that. She's our agency coordinator for that. So an important role that kind of very behind the scenes, but we wouldn't be able to do our jobs without that. It's not something that we all necessarily understand day to day. So just want to point that out as something that she does that's very unique. There's one ongoing internal investigation. I imagine it'll be wrapped up by next week. Possible minor rule violations. I wouldn't expect anything significant to come of it, but certainly want to acknowledge it here when I always give our updates on discipline and or investigations that are going on. So that is all I have for personnel. Training updates. Last quarter, police department staff attended 320 hours of training this quarter. The majority of it came in 2 chunks, but in December we had our normal lakes training that we train with our partners in Waukesha County. This was a 4-hour session on live fire firearms. It's normally an 8-hour day. We do 4 8-hour days per year with this group, but due to vacations and some other staffing reasons, we were only able to get through 4 hours. So we did the firearms portion and missed out on actually what was a TASER recertification, but we did that internally prior to the training. So we really still got our full amount of hours in for the quarter.
So the 4 hours, that is just handgun,
This
or is it combined?
for this session, it was just handgun.
Okay.
Typically, when we shoot indoors at WCTC, we don't do much, if any, rifle, partly because of the noise factor. Not every agency has suppressed weapons, and shooting rifles inside the concrete range is extremely loud, and at times probably not real conducive for long-term safety to do that. So because we have the opportunity to shoot outside 3 times a year. So,
Okay, cool.
yeah. One important things we did do though was our state handgun qualification. So during the fiscal year, which runs July 1st through June 30th for the State Training and Standards Board, every officer in the state of Wisconsin has to complete and pass the state handgun qualification. So we typically do that in December, and we did it, and all of our officers successfully passed that. So that's a requirement to maintain your certification each year. We also had all of our members, except myself at this point, although I'll be going through some of it this spring, attended in-service at WCTC. That's 3 days, 24 hours, also something that we do annually. And I listed, you can see it's quite an extensive list of topics there put on by WCTC. So besides the fact of myself and Captain Benson doing some instructing out there for some of these disciplines, for other agencies, we also put all of our people through and cover all these topics. So I think it was a really good session that runs the spring and the or fall and spring are the same. And it's good training for our officers, and we actually got fairly good feedback on that, which is good for in-service training because it's kind of made to be generic for all agencies to send all of their personnel through. But WCTC is doing a really good job with the topics and with the instructors and the training that we're doing out there. So it's definitely worthwhile for us to go through those trainings. Captain Benson completed a 2-week leadership in police organizations course. It's basically the International Association of Chiefs of Police flagship course for leadership, for frontline leadership. Talks about the different topics there. But they not only do training on it, but it's not 2 weeks of just sitting in a classroom. They're actually doing, taking those leadership theories, concepts, putting them into practice through scenario training, small groups, and other ways that they get practical strategies that come out of that class. So he found value in that, and that's an important class that we were able to get him sent through.
Would that be like a stepping stone then for the FBI program, possibly?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a stepping stone, but I would call it a level of leadership training as you kind of progress up. But yeah,
Thank you.
similar concepts and topics maybe, but shorter version there. We also had officers go through these other topics here: truck law, obtaining exigent data from phone providers, a child maltreatment course. So again, just a typical wide variety of training and doing some specialized training outside the department as well, typically in fall. I looked at our numbers from last year, but November, December, there's a lot of vacation used. So sometimes difficult to get people through training for those periods. But we're still, again, focusing on training, and that's one of our focuses for this year. We'll continue to be on increasing that training level, both hours and, again, the types of courses that we're sending the officers to.
Just to back up a touch, in regards to your required qualifications for handgun that everybody does every year, everybody completed that and passed it. Were those with everybody was using the new service weapons, correct? Which is awesome. So that just is great to hear too.
Yeah, that's a good point. It clearly shows, I mean, not only do you have to pass the qualification,
But they did it with a new
proficiency
weapon.
level that we're up and running with our new weapons. And
Yep. That's great to hear.
positive feedback. So thanks for pointing that out.
Yep.
Any other questions regarding trainings? So I'll just kind of run through, I'll hit some of the highlights there on the miscellaneous updates. You obviously had a chance to look at it. So if you have any other questions, let me know. I will point out that I met with, although we've been working with them on a daily basis, but with one of the Brookfield assistant fire chiefs. We had a good discussion about operations, joint calls for service between our departments, kind of how they operate on calls, how we operate on calls, some of the nuances, maybe of them coming and working in a small village, for example. They may come on a fire call or a call where we as police need EMS, and maybe we only have one officer on duty. Are we riding with them in an ambulance? What are their policies? What are their procedures? What are ours? Is the person handcuffed? Are they not? So some of those things we kind of just work through. We also talked about familiarity with the village, and I talked to all of our officers about assisting Brookfield if and when necessary. Like, for example, we go to a business that we're familiar with and they say the alarm's at door 37. Well, they may not know exactly where that is, so we're going to continue to assist with getting them to the right locations if need be. So that transition has been seamless for us. Positive feedback from all of our officers on it, and I anticipate that relationship only continuing to improve moving forward. So just want to point that out. 2025, I just pointed out that we processed 190 open records requests, so public records requests. They kind of run in streaks, but they are very plentiful and time consuming, especially considering most of the requests now include requests for video. So you have to go through, in most cases, and look at an officer or two or three who are on the call, all of their body camera video, anything that's related to that information has to be redacted or taken out of those videos related to sensitive information of either personal information or other things that can't be released. So it is a time-consuming process. Again, Melinda does a really good job on the front end of that, but it all does have to be reviewed by a supervisor before it goes out the door. So there's a lot of hours spent watching videos to make sure that we're not releasing something that we shouldn't, but yet we're releasing the things that we're required to by law. So big topic for us on a day-to-day basis, really.
I appreciate you elaborating on that as well, because when I think open records request, I just think some paperwork coming through. Kind of slipped my mind about the body cams and the time that it takes to go through all that and pick out and or not erase, but redact it. It could be start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. So
Correct.
I'm glad that you brought that forward.
Yeah, and again, it's an important topic for us. We want to give the information that we should, but we don't want to release sensitive information that we should not. So, applied for a grant through the Federal Bulletproof Vest Partnership. You can request up to 50% reimbursement on the vest grant. So that was our total there, just under $1,200 for a couple of replacement vests. I have not gotten information yet if we received that or not, but hopefully we'll get that money back to. That covered some of the costs or half the cost of our vests that we had to replace last year. Our vest replacement schedule is every 5 years. Those are National Institute of Justice standards for ballistic body armor. So every 5 years, officers will get new body armor. That's just to make sure we maintain the standards.
It's probably a naive question, but God forbid the vest is utilized. Does it get replaced right away then?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, one-time use.
Yeah, okay.
We're looking at an ordinance, locker room update. So, of course, in the 2026 budget, there's capital money for a locker room refresh and update. Met with the vendor last week to go through both the main locker room and then the side locker room where there's 3 separate lockers. Our quote will actually be a little bit less than what we had last year, mostly to do with a typo on the original quote. They basically put the total number of lockers in one locker room and then the other 3 in the other locker room. So we caught that and talked to the vendor, and not a problem. So we should be good to go on that. There'll be about a 12 to 16 week lead time from the time the order actually goes in. One final step, in fact, the last thing we have to do is have the fire department take a look at where we're putting those lockers. I want to make sure that we're not, violating some sort of code or whatever else related to height and or how they're set up in there. So just want to make sure we do that before we make a big investment and then find out we should have asked them ahead of time. So we will do that. Currently in the process of drafting an ordinance related to the regulation and sale of THC products and hemp-derived products to individuals over the age of 21 in the village. So I would think sooner than later, this will probably come to the board at our request. The short version of this, and it can be explained in more detail when we have the ordinance done, is that THC products that you see in, say, gas stations, right? They're all packaged up nicely. They say they're derived from THC or hemp-derived products. If they're under 0.3% of THC content, under state law, they're considered legal. However, there's no way to regulate that. There's no way to know what's in these products. It's not regulated by the state. There's no way to really test them. And there have been communities, including ours, where these products are being sold to people under 21 years old and having adverse effects, especially on children. So there's no state law that says you have to be a certain age to buy these products. Most businesses self-regulate themselves, or they're supposed to. But I want to make sure that that's not the case. We did have an incident with some teenagers. One of them ended up in the hospital, and these can have some pretty significant impacts on people. So we want to make sure that at least there's some recourse for us if businesses are not complying with these products. So that'll come in front of you. It's again a way to protect our kids and people in our village, and or hold the businesses accountable for it. I just want to touch on, I put our use of force review process in there. Again, probably something that's not forward facing all the time, but whenever we have an incident that involves use of force, effectively above handcuffing someone, we review that process. So either myself, now it's mostly Captain Benson, we're our 2 defensive tactics instructors certified by the state. So we take every incident that occurs and review the entire thing, from both reports to videos, if need be, talking to the officers. And I only point this out, excuse me, just so that, it's aware that we take these things seriously and we look at each and every single one of them. And we review them and we write a report on that review, so it's documented that we looked at it, the justifications were in place or were not, which hasn't been the case, for the officers to act the way that they did, and that what they did was reasonable and legal and allowable under state law and under our defensive tactics system. So I just want to point that out that, again, anytime we have any type of use of force, it's reviewed. It goes through either the captain, but then it goes through myself, and we have all that documented. So it's good.
Excellent.
It's a good system to have in place. Our interoperability radio grant program, I know the administrator has mentioned this several times. We did get our application submitted with significant assistance from administration. So it was like most grants, it was a cumbersome process gathering all the information, but I think we did a good job putting everything together, writing the justification in the grant for the request for radios. I do just want to point out, though, it's not specific to the changes that are coming in 2 years to the radio system in Waukesha County. It's a statewide program and a statewide grant related to the state radio system. So this grant is not specific because Waukesha County is making changes in a couple of years, which is our main concern with our radios. It's a statewide program, but hopefully with the amount of funds that are there and the work that we put in, that we'd like to be able to receive some money, because that would help us with that process moving forward. So we'll, I think May 1st is maybe the award date on that, so we'll keep you posted. Falling into that radio update, we did find out that our current radio cache, both our mobile radios in the cars and our handheld radios, none of them are supported anymore by Motorola or upgradable to this phase 2 that has changed, that is coming in supposedly like 2 years. So when that happens, our radios will be obsolete. On the plus side, we found out that the radios that are in the fire department are either already supported and upgradable, or with a firmware upgrade for a reasonable cost. I'd say probably Motorola told me around $2,000, maybe less. They would need to be encrypted and upgraded, but they are upgradable. So cost of a new radio and setup anywhere maybe close to $6,000. So it could potentially save us some money if we needed to utilize those in the future. And we're going to continue to do some research on that as well.
And we briefly had talked earlier, Chief.
Yeah.
Your chargers currently will work with the new radios.
Yeah. Same
So that we
battery
make sure,
system.
so same system is, so that would be interchangeable.
Good news.
Because our president had a very valid question about that, that we had enough chargers, and we wanted to make sure that everything had a charger. So we're in a better position now that there's going to be more chargers than radios, which a lot of times doesn't happen. So that's good to know.
Yeah, and that, again, we'll wait and see what happens if or anything with this grant, but we did have to obtain a quote. So part of the process was getting a quote from Motorola. So for all new handheld radios, charging banks, we would need radios in the cars, not including installation. We were over, well, with a discount, we had a pretty significant discount. We were at about $113,000. It was like 170 something without the discount that they offered us. So that's why we're putting the work in on this, and that's why we're talking about it 2+ years ahead of time, because it's going to be a significant investment if and when we need to make that. Grant money would obviously help put us in the right direction with that.
So the grant money on top of the fire department radios being utilized puts us in a really great situation.
Yep, certainly would. Yeah. All right, I'll just keep moving along here. So we had our Stuff to Squad event back on November 1st at Quick Trip, our first annual event. It was a great idea that Officer Knapp came up with. We continue to talk about ways that we can engage with the community, and activities, programs, events like this are one good way. So thanks to everybody that came out. I know the people that were there certainly acknowledged and saw the amount of generosity that we received from the community and people just passing through. So that was a great event. St. Agnes Food Pantry benefited along with the people who utilized that. So we were happy to be a part of the community in that regard. November 3rd, the suspect that was involved in a fleeing incident earlier this year, where one of our squads was totaled and an officer was injured. He was sentenced on 2 felony charges, initially confined for 5 years in prison, 10 years of extended supervision, and I'll be attending a restitution hearing next week. on that, trying to recoup some of the costs of our overtime costs through the court. Whether we'll see any of that or not, I don't know, but we certainly want to make the effort that because of the costs that we incurred, it was over $13,000 in overtime directly related to this incident that we had to cover. I put that request in through affidavit with the court. So November 12th, the Cub Scouts were here. Captain Benson and Officer Knapp did a good job with that. They included some interactive activities. We did some evidence collection projects and taught them about fingerprints, had them lift some fingerprints and some other activities like that. So that was a good time. November 18th, we partnered with Emmanuel Lutheran along with Brookfield PD, and I'm not sure if the fire was there or not, for a lockdown drill at Emmanuel Lutheran. Again, continuing to work on school safety and work on our partners in and around Butler. December 28th, we had an unfortunate call of an 11-year-old who was unresponsive. Us, along with the Brookfield Fire Department, responded to a residence here in the village, and that child unfortunately did not survive. Conducted our full investigation on that. Autopsy was attended. Does not appear to be suspicious, but unknown exactly what happened with that 11-year-old. So waiting for some further information and/or test results to come in regarding that. So New Year's, I just point out overall it was low key, safe in the village. We did have one vehicle pursuit. Suspect that fled from one of our officers crashed into a tree on 132nd Street. He fled on foot behind a house near a backyard. He discarded a handgun that had an extended magazine in it. And there was only one officer there at the time. The suspect made it back to his vehicle and was able to flee again. Almost struck the officer in the street, was then chased again and crashed into a vehicle in Menominee Falls. He was charged with several crimes, and fortunately nobody was seriously injured. So, but again, the kind of stuff that goes on either during the night or kind of behind the scenes, but a great job by our guys to get that person into custody, get a gun off the street. And again, fortunately nobody was seriously injured. And then just to point out, this coming year, I'm now the vice president of our Waukesha County Police Chiefs Association for 2026. And I'm also having Captain Benson join the association as an associate member to start attending those meetings with the leadership of Waukesha County law enforcement agencies, police, fire, DA's office, medical examiner, dispatch. So we all get together, and it's a really good association. So long-winded. Anything on that? All right. So then just a list of our incident data from the 1st of October through the end of the year. There's nothing that overly stood out to me on this. Again, you always like to point out though, no armed robberies, no burglaries in the village. So those crimes, we don't want, to see on this list all that often, but I think again, proactive policing, being active, making traffic stops, being visible in the neighborhoods contribute to the fact of what some of those numbers are. Not everything's preventable, but you guys are doing a really good job out there. Same with arrest data, just including all the individuals that were arrested and what charges they were arrested for. 399 traffic citations were issued, 213 parking citations.
Did the majority of the arrests come from traffic stops? Is it something, I mean, is there a number higher than?
But there's a lot of.
It's a higher percentage?
There's a lot of proactive related to that. I would say the ones that don't are probably like for the disorderly conducts, the domestic violence calls. But yeah, like carrying concealed weapons, drug-related charges, fleeing, eluding, possession. Those things are typically from traffic stops and proactive activity, warrant arrests. Contraband seized for the quarter there. 4 handguns. So again, we're still taking guns off the street. We just had a case last week, which somebody was walking around a gas station with a short barrel rifle tucked in the front of their waistband and their pants. And our officer made an arrest on that. So it's just again the kind of stuff that's happening out there that maybe people don't see or hear about every day. So obviously for our guys to make sure that they're safe, but again, that's why it's important for us to be out there being proactive and stopping individuals and stopping cars. Fleet update, just real quickly. Our 26 Interceptor has been ordered, but we don't have any update on delivery as of today. And then the plan is to replace 721 is a frontline car with the 2026. And then rotate 21 in for our court meetings, administrative activities, training, to minimize our non-patrol mileage on the fleet. And then I just included our monthly squad mileage and updates on this. I know it's quarterly, but on our monthly report, I've been doing that every month now. Kind of get an idea. And if you look from, 1 month to the next on each car, kind of get an idea. 23, 25, 25R were the ones that were used regularly during November and December. 721 wasn't used much in December because the officers that drive it were off. But I like where we're headed with that. You can see the total monthly mileage was right around 2,000. So that's pretty good for all 5 of our vehicles in our fleet. So I like the plan that we have in place and where we're headed with that. And then I just put together an overtime comparison, given the fact that it's the end of the year. We have totals for 25 for our overtime hours. So just to point out, for sick coverage in 2025, that number is higher because there was 176 hours, as we talked about earlier, from having somebody that was injured on duty and needing to cover those overtime hours. So that's why that number is kind of an anomaly this year. Overall, we're still in a good place with overtime wise. And I just highlighted a couple numbers in 23, only because you can see that for things like vacation coverage, calls for service that run after or before an officer shift, special events, we were significantly higher a couple years ago. And I do attribute that to now being fully staffed and having our 9th officer, myself and the captain involved in special events and in coverage when need be. So we're going to certainly monitor those, but I feel confident that we can keep those numbers in check as we kind of move forward.
So just looking from 24 to 25, to your point where you kind of let us know about the 176, if we get rid of that, we're actually down, or I should say you guys are actually down 50 hours in overtime.
Yeah.
If we take away that unfortunate incident with your officer. So I think, it's a great job that you're being mindful of overtime hours, and it shows. So without that anomaly, if you will, we're down 50 hours from last year.
So, and again, some of that has to do with staffing, and then obviously we're cognizant of that on a daily basis as to what we're utilizing overtime for. So, obviously, certain things you can't always avoid, but we're in a good spot there.
I like to see the training is increasing again too. That's
Yeah.
always positive.
Yeah, good. Thank you. And then just skate land summary. Nothing significant. Calls for service went up a little bit, but there was no arrest at skate land. So assist fire EMS calls, fairly common there. 3 disorderly conducts, but again, they were resolved without arrest. So I guess that just speaks to that they weren't overly significant. So that's all I have on that. And I just real quickly, just one or two other things. I like to look at our numbers for our calls for service. And so what I did was I did an annual analysis. I didn't include this in your report, but I did an annual analysis of calls for service by time of day and day of the week, right? So when I'm looking at deploying our resources and who we have working and what our shift hours are, do we have the people here when we need them, right? We don't need 6 officers working from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. on a Tuesday. We want them here when there's calls. So overall, out of 6,619 calls for service, the busiest day of the week was Wednesday, followed fairly closely by Tuesday.
Who would have thought?
Yeah. And the busiest hours for calls were basically between 3 and 6 or 7 p.m. And then also spikes during the night, like at 10 o'clock, midnight. A lot of those have to do with, they include traffic stops or other, arrests or calls for service. So it doesn't necessarily surprise me, but just kind of thought it was interesting to point out. And our actual slowest day for calls is a Sunday. So, which is good.
Everybody needs a rest.
Which is good. And yeah, again, to point out that's a lot of times when on Saturdays and Sundays we have, we don't have as much staff here all the time. So it just goes in line with what our calls are.
Yeah. Thanks, Chief.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
All right, Chief Cass.
Great. So all of our, I emailed all the statistical stuff for the last quarter. All of it was jointly with the Butler Volunteer Fire Department. So all of our joint responses, we had a total of 88 responses that we went to. Average response time was just under 7 minutes. It was 6 minutes, 48 seconds. And you can kind of see as you go down, we had no fire incidents. There's 3 hazardous conditions, and those can be from, it's mainly going to be probably like burnt food, or it could be hazmat cleanup. Maybe it's spilled fluids from a vehicle, or maybe somebody has like a gas leak of some sort, and we're working with the energy company to remedy those. And then we also had 9 fire alarms. Service calls are usually largely non-emergent, so you'll see a longer response time there. Those can range anything from assistance, like maybe their smoke detector or CO detectors chirping, but there's like no fire, nobody's feeling sick. So we kind of suspect that it's probably an end of life malfunction of the alarm. And so we'll go to those, or maybe somebody has a lockout of their building, whether it's a business or apartment complex. Sometimes we get dispatched and there's no incident found, or it could be a police matter, or that we got canceled by the fire department in the last quarter. Predominantly, most of our calls are going to be EMS. 61 of those calls. You can see kind of a general breakdown of what we went to. A couple of breathing problems, cardiac problems. Falls are going to probably be a big one. I know traditionally they're probably about 25% of our call volume is just falls. Illnesses are kind of just general ones. Those can be anything from a diabetic matter, somebody having abdominal pain, feeling ill. So those are just kind of the general ones. That was the biggest one with 19 of those. One person complained of stroke type symptoms, and then 6 injuries. Our average response time for EMS calls is 7 minutes, 22 seconds. Okay.
I appreciate the listing of the response times.
Yeah, I know that was a big concern for everybody, and putting that in there. So we always detail that out. And we track it week in and week out. So last week, I think we had 12 calls into the village of Butler. Average response time, I can kind of give you a breakdown just of last week. 12 calls, 3 of them were non-emergent. Average response time for all 12 of those calls was 7 minutes, 21 seconds. There were 7 EMS, 2 service calls, 2 false alarms, and 1 good intent call. So
Along those lines, a couple of questions. So the average time being what it is, do you know what like the longest time was?
I'm sure I could find that for you. We typically don't track like you'll see here like fire departments do like their 90th percentile and stuff like that. For us, we don't track it that way because the way that all of our stations are structured along Calhoun Road, and that's how the stations were built, is that the elected officials wanted the average response time. It'd be really hard for us to meet the 90th percentile for times. I just know like average times to get to places, and that was how we kind of like have our model in Brookfield was average response time. Because otherwise you'd start building stations. They're like, we're not going to build and staff stations everywhere. They're like, based on this model, an average response time of like 5 to 5.5 minutes was acceptable.
And then would there?
I can find that for you.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious on that one. But then of the calls that responded to thus far, would you happen to know a percentage or how many of the calls where the closest station on the kilowatt, I forget the number, if they were out, if they were out and then the next one down had to come, were there any of those?
There are a couple of those. I don't have that specific number, but I can get that for you. I know if I was just to speculate off the top of my head, I'd probably say 3, maybe in the last quarter. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen.
Sure. I mean, it's bound to happen. Yeah. I'm just kind of curious as to how much longer it is when they have to go. So, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I can get that for you.
And that would be pretty much the same thing that could happen when the Butler Fire Department was doing it. They could be out on a call too, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty standard.
Yeah. And that information will actually be a lot easier for me to get. One of the things that we just got done doing in December is nationwide, the whole country, all the fire departments have been switching over their fire reporting system. It used to be called NIFRS, the National Fire Incident Reporting System, which has been around since the 1970s. That system's collapsing. and they decided to change it a couple of years ago to NERS. It's the National Emergency Response Incident System. And so we were the last region in the United States to switch that. So in Wisconsin, we switched over in December. And those reports, we've been building out all those reports to kind of coincide with our reporting system. And one of them will have like a detail of like all the incidents and response times. It's a little bit cleaner because we've been working on stuff like that. And then our EMS reporting, we switched over from image trend to go into our existing RMS, which is fireworks. So everything's kind of housed. And so that the information that we're getting is a lot cleaner. So we took care of all that stuff. And towards the end of December is like mid-December. So we're starting off the new year with all hopefully cleaner and more precise data.
Yeah, that system seems to be whole encompassed and really, from what I understand, great for you guys to use to get all the information and breaks it down in a lot of different ways.
Any other questions on responses? Moving along, training stuff. We had 9 pre-planned tours. Added up, we had it took about an average of an hour a piece, and it was probably about just under 50 hours of training. Typically, you'll see us mainly on Sunday mornings is usually when we do most of our pre-planned tours, just because it's usually the slowest time for us. And we don't necessarily need to be like in the building. We're usually going around the building, identifying stuff. If the weather's pretty decent, you'll see us hop out, and we kind of just do like a tailboard training of like tactics, especially with the new person. So it kind of gives us time to actually sit there, take everything in. Hey, what would you do in this situation where you grab me and just get everybody on the same page? So that predominantly happens on Sundays, but you can see it happen at any time of the week, especially starting next month. You'll see us starting with fire inspections. And so you'll see at least a couple of people consistently in the village starting the fire inspections. In preparation for the fire inspections, we have had a person you've probably seen our brush truck in the village. Firefighter paramedic Noemi Baranaga has been going around working with the businesses, village administrator, PD, to shore up all of our information and loading that information in. So we have all the pertinent information in our fire inspections. Like I said, you'll see us starting that next month. We also met with the village administrator and the building inspector, Safe Build, to go through and review like how we're going to coordinate inspections for occupancy, acceptance testing, stuff like that, permitting and plan review. So we've been working on that. Community risk reduction. We worked with the village administrator to send out flyers to businesses and residents on the change for the fire department, as well as I believe this Thursday, we're going to be setting up a display for information in the lobby that will have fire safety stuff, EMS stuff. It'll have like the file of life magnet stickers where somebody can put down their information. That way, if we get an EMS call and they're unresponsive, we can always grab that information and provide that continuity of care to the hospitals. Other things that we've been doing, we've been working on obviously the updated ordinances, and we're very appreciative of your patience as we work through the various ordinances, whether it's related to the fire department operations, open burning fireworks. Obviously, there'll be some more ordinance changes that we'll be trying to clean up. Our emergency medical service operational plan was approved. We're in the middle of updating our plan. We have to do that every 2 years, but it was nicely timed so we could incorporate the services into the village of Butler with our operational plan. So that's all approved. And then we've been coordinating with the Department of Safety and Professional Services to get all of our fire departments, because we'll be having a 2% dues audit this year in person from our area rep. And so we've been working on the transition with the state on all of that stuff. And then it sounds like we're going to be close, or pretty much close on the finalizing of the agreement to purchase the ambulance and the equipment. More most likely, you're going to end up seeing that same ambulance moving around with the fire inspectors in the village is the plan. So coming up on the next quarter, you'll see the fire inspections. We're going to be doing some hiring. So we're going to be hiring like 5 to 7 firefighter paramedics. We do most of our training at the TOSA Tower, so it's right down the street, so it's close by. Again, we're gonna be updating our permit and reporting processes, continuing the ordinance updates, and continuing our pre-incident planning. And that's really about it.
I know this is just getting started for you, but how is the transition going from your side of things?
Very well. We've been super appreciative. Chief Zulik and his team were fantastic with us. Him taking this time on calls to explain the ins and outs. He obviously knows the village very, very well. So we're very appreciative of the time that he spent with all of us, including me. We had several meetings with him over the last several months, over the last half year, talking about stuff. So he's been very generous with his time. Village staff has been great. Like I said, we're very appreciative of working through any type of ordinance changes, working with the police department on any types of responses that we have. From our perspective, it's been going very seamless for us, and we hope that and from what we gathered, I'm like, haven't heard anything different, that it's meeting and exceeding your expectations as well.
I would agree with that.
Definitely agree with that.
It just seems like it was a smooth transition on our end as well. And I appreciate you coming to the meetings and participating for the last several months, and then working with the police department on that. That's really great.
And you also have been working with DPW, my understanding, so that's gone well.
Craig, on the water supply, especially this time of year with anything that's needed with like plowing of the streets or anything like that. And that's been going well as.
Because our water system's a little bit different than others, I think, as far as flow goes, if you guys needed to utilize it.
Yep, and so we have all this contact information. We've been putting that into the fire department phones, so he's made himself readily available. We're making sure that everybody knows that if we open up a hydrant, contact him. We got all the information that we have on the water supply system, so that's great as well. So that's
Yeah,
all
and
well.
Craig did say the same, that it's been great to work with you guys.
Good.
Thank you.
Very appreciative.
Excellent. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
If no other comments from the board, we need to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that will be at 5:42.
Bring